All right. Sit up on some level of elevation. Blocks, bolster blankets, so your hips are slightly off the floor. Cross the shins, one in front of the other, moving the foot underneath the opposite knee. Place your hands on your thighs. Lift your ribs. Take a deep breath. Exhale, drop your shoulders. Press your hands into your thighs again. Keep your feet flexed. Keep your legs active. Lift your chest. Exhale, draw your back ribs in, side rib forward, front ribs up. Bring your head up and chin lifted. And let your eyes close for a few minutes. Just take a few minutes with your eyes closed. Hearing yourself, hearing your own breath, hearing the things that your breath tells you. But recognize all the things going through the mind may not be just you. They may be things you're repeating, but they may not be you. Right? Because we live in a world where we're 24 hours of, we could be sold to, we could be convinced, coerced, encouraged. Fun jingles, fun ideas, lots of things to get us to use our energy on things other than ourselves. And so as you just take a few moments here, hear your own breath. Be aware of the thoughts that go through your head, but just be aware of your breath. Be aware of your breath and the things that go, and the qualities of your breath that it tells you about yourself. Is your breath short because you're agitated? Is it slow because you're relaxed? One of the big things about yoga is to take our awareness inward. Not just in the thing we're going through in the moment. Not just the stretch of the hamstring or things like that. And not even the blanking of those things or the removing of pain or weakness or illness or the creation of things we want, but just recognizing what all of those things that we go through are affecting, are having the what effect they're having on ourselves, our body, our mental state. That awareness, that sharpness, that dhyana. Because as we keep going through things, a good thing might make us happy, but a good thing and a bad thing might not make us happy. It might create something entirely different. And as we constantly live in a world where we are easily bombarded, you have to be aware of how all those things are mixing together. It's like when you throw a bunch of things into a bowl to create something. The amount, the different type changes it. The practice isn't just about what else you're throwing in the bowl, my friends, but what's already in there and what you need to add to make it what you want. Like I used to say, the idea of the glass being half empty or half full is the wrong question. What has it already got in it? And what do you need to add to that glass to make it the draught of your life, the thing that you need so you can go on greater than now? Is your glass just full of sour lemons? Well, you need to add some sugar. Right? Get some lemonade. Is it too sweet? Maybe you need some sourness of focus and discipline. Become aware of those things as you create the poses on your mat. Because remember, each pose can be either or. It can be a sad thing about a pose, happiness in a pose. Sour, discipline, focus, joy. You create these in your yoga poses. So as you go through each one, try something a little bit. Even though it might be a simple forward stretch, do so with joy, or do so with focus, or do so with sadness. Whatever you need inside your glass, whatever you need inside your bowl, whatever you've got going on with you. To complete the alchemy that creates the gold in you, the version of yourself that you want to be in the world the most, for yourself and ultimately for others. Bring the palms together at the chest, thumbs touching the sternum. Keep the head up, chin up, ribs up, feet flexed. We'll almost shortly 3 times and begin. Take a breath. Om. 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 Bow your head for a moment and salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. Bring your hands into your lap. Let your head rise and your eyes open. All right, so nice to see everybody. See some more people snuck in. I don't think anyone snuck out entirely. Hi, Shuba, Margaret, Caitlin, Fatima. I hadn't said hello to you before. Hello. Hi, very loud and needy. So let's come to a standing position. Let's do a few poses to warm up the body, and then we can go on to other work from there. We're going to continue our work in our seated poses. The strength of our legs in our seated poses and light. So bring the body into Tadasana for a moment. Heels touching, big toes touching, unless you have back pain or your balance is bad. And as you squeeze your thighs together, calves together, work through the legs first, pushing your thighs back, pushing your thighs in, pushing your thighs forward, and pushing your inner thighs out slightly so they have to go up. So remember, just like a few weeks ago when we had the arms out, we pushed the hand forward to feel the muscle, back to feel the muscle, in to feel the muscle, out to feel the muscle, and we learned to try and keep all of that. Your legs have to be in the same action. Not because you are weak or you're not doing it right, just by standing there. But the awareness that we bring up in the warming up of our poses is not just to create a safe amount of mobility in the body because our muscles are warm, the body is active, but it's about, can we do this when we are at our most stimulated, right? Standing poses are very stimulating. The hamstring screams, the heat builds, everything's active, right? When you sit, you have to keep that same focus that you get from that stimulation. So take a breath, pick your right knee up in front of you, knee the height of your hip. Stretch both arms straight up if you can. If you need to have a hand on something for a balance, do that. But feel what's active and stimulating in this pose for you. And just like I said, in the meditative part, right, you may not know fully what's in your cup right now or in your bowl, what you've already had tossed in on you today. But if you have an idea, add the thing you need to make it better, right? You can't get rid of the sadness of your past or the stress of your past. You lived it. That's yours. You got to own it. But what you can do, though, is give yourself the thing you need to make it what you want, right? You got sad. Maybe you need some discipline. Maybe you need some focus. Maybe you need some happiness. I don't know. But what you get is you try to create it in your yoga pose. So if you need to be happy, find some happiness in your standing pose. Shift your body until you kind of like can smile about it or laugh about it or whatever you need. You need some focus? Cut the chatter. Stabilize your muscles. Get rid of your chitti-vritti. But in no way fight yourself. There's lots of things to fight in the world. Don't do you. Take your right foot back behind you, bringing your thighs together, knees together. And same thing. Feel your body. Feel what this tells you about yourself. And then make it what you want. Maybe not by, totally coming out of the pose. Do the pose. But what can you do inside this thing that you've dedicated yourself to doing for the next hour to give yourself what you need to get what you want? And let me offer a piece of advice. Do not think the thing you need is to be infinitely better or perfect. Pick something tangible, pick something believable, pick something real in the fact that you know what happy is, you know what sad is, you know what fun or joy is. Bring those up. Don't say something illusory like, I need to be a Pegasus. Okay. Take your right foot out in front of you. Take your right ankle over your left thigh. Don't say, I need to be perfect. You must like this. Right ankle over left thigh, stretch the knee down. Keep lifting through the side body. Feel the stimulation of the pose. Feel what the pose is telling you about your body or telling you about yourself. And then as it comes up, what do you need to add to it to make it what you need to get through the rest of your day and farther? That may mean using your hand on a wall or a chair. That may mean resting. I'm always going to encourage you, don't quit. That may mean bringing your arms down. Good for you, Pratima. Because if you're in your pose and your pose is making you less of what you need, you're not practicing yoga, you're practicing what I like to say, violence or abuse. Bring your right leg down. Bring your arms down for a second. Push your thighs back. Push your hamstrings forward. Push your outer thigh in. Push your inner thigh out. And then lift your left knee up. Stimulate your body, removing the leg. So feel the stimulation. Can you stimulate all parts of your leg in this pose? And then from that stimulation, up the rest of the spine. Take both arms up. You might notice that many of my classes, we do what was considered simpler basic poses. But there's no such thing really. There's no simpler basic pose. The complex, even what considered simple poses can be incredibly complex because of what you get out of them. Mr. Angar would often say, if you only practice one pose your whole life to mastery, be a life well lived, you would know a lot about yourself, a lot about that pose. Even though your arms are up, be aware of your legs. Are you still working all sides of the leg? Moving all the muscle to the bone on each side, so the hamstring pushes up into the bone, the thigh into the bone, outer thigh, inner thigh. Can you stimulate yourself in this very standing pose so that when we go to seated and I ask you to flex the muscles of the leg, you feel the muscles of your leg. You feel you. Take your foot back behind you, thighs together, knees together. Because I know I could sit here and talk about for a whole hour how this is stretching your psoas or working your quad or creating balance and health in your feet or lifting your spine or blah, 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 blah. But that's not the important part. We can use this as a thing to make us aware so that when we go to poses that are harder or more difficult based on our body's needs, we can do so with safety and awareness. You don't have to perfect a pose to do another pose. You need to learn and listen from one pose to do another pose. Not be perfect. There's no test on your poses. Bend your left knee deeper, pulling the heel up to your butt. Take a few nice deep breaths in. Feel the stimulation. Feel it moving in your body. Feel the warmth, the heat, so that when we sit in a cooling position, you are still aware. Do not think that the stimulation is the point of the pose. The stimulation is just there to teach you to feel after you're out of the pose. Exhale, bring your leg down, bring your arms down. Stand nice and wide on your yoga mat, 3.5 to 4 foot apart. More people are trickling in, that's nice. Stand nice and wide, feet about 3 to 4 foot apart. Turn your right toes out, arms out wide. Add stimulation to the upper body arms. So before we even bend the knee, push down through the trunk of the leg. Stimulate the leg actively. Lift the chest. Lift the back muscle. Stretch the arm. Try to awaken each part of your body, not by flexing harder, but by opening up so you can feel something else other than the things that you've been carrying around all day. And I'm not trying to be muscle detailed today because too much formula, too much science doesn't allow for you to feel you. Bend the right knee, warrior two. Take a breath. Exhale as you go. Look out over your right arm. Direct your gaze the direction of your movement. Look at all these great warriors. Caitlin, bend that right knee. And then take a breath. Check in with your right leg, left leg. Are they active like we've talked about in the classes? Are they rotating? Are they moving the directions they need to, that you're guiding them to get what you want out of this? Is your right thigh externally rotated? If you need to put your hand on it and twist the muscle like we have in the past weeks, do so. Get yourself in it, whatever it takes. Hands are like props. They can push and move you too. Your hands are just as good as my hands as pushing you around. You need less consent when it's your own hands too. Straighten the right leg, turn the toes in, turn your left toes out, keep the arms up. Open up. Notice that when you turn the leg out, the body collapses in. Try to reopen the shoulders. Not flex, not force, but create some space. Then bend the left knee as you exhale. Look out over your left hand. Looking very strong. Look like a fitness model. No class opinion.
No.
Bend the left knee. Take a nice deep breath in. As you bend that left knee, check your leg muscles. Are all of your leg active? Not just flexed, but can you feel each part moving or engaging into the pose in some way? Because the thing that will really mess up, the thing you're creating for yourself, is not paying attention when someone sneaks something in. Right? Self-sabotage is a true thing. I've self-sabotaged lots of things in my life for dumb reasons. And that happens in the yoga poses. Early on in my life, I really pushed my body hard in them because I always had to feel like I was stimulated and active and growing. So I hurt myself because I self-sabotaged instead of just being okay that I had made progress. Whole other thing. Stretch your left leg straight, turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out again. Stretch the legs long, open up from the core body out through the limbs. And remember, directions are not just the same directions your arms and legs are pointing. Your tailbone's pointing down, so stretch it down. Your spine is pointing up, lift it up. Bend the right knee into warrior two again. Virabhadrasana two. Caitlin, step wider. You're much taller than that, dear. I know you don't hear that often, but enjoy it. Now turn your left toes in. There you go, kid. Do it. Look out over that right arm. Use your hands on your legs if you need to start stimulating the muscle to move. And then take your right forearm on your right thigh. Fingers pointing same direction your pelvis is. Swing your left arm forward and over your head. And now stimulate a new space of your body. The new pose isn't just to work the hip, but stretch from your left ribs up through the arm, from your left ribs down to the foot. And think of the new directions your limbs are pointing and extend them. So your right arm has to press down and drag that right thigh muscle back. Your right thigh has to stretch away from your hip. Bend that right knee, Caitlin. There you go. You got this. And then look up to your armpit. Good placement of your arm, Shubha. Very nice. Take a breath, everybody. Feel where you're stimulated. Feel where you're working at in your body. Feel what's already going on. And for 2 seconds, 2 breaths, make something out of it that's what you need. A challenge, because you need to prove to yourself you're worthy. Joy, care by backing off a little bit. This is your next couple seconds. I'm not going to say anything. Support of a prop, whatever. Explore in your own body. Classes are safe places to do that because the teacher is here. All right, bring your body up. Straighten your right leg, turn your toes in, turn your left toes up. Extend the limbs. We've talked about this for weeks. Stimulate, feel the pressure pushing through the floor. Move the tailbone its direction, move the spine its direction, each arm. Even move your ears away from your head. Bend the left knee. I'll let you think about that one. Got to make some space in the thing between your ears. Bend that left knee deep. Work warrior two for a moment. Use your hands on your thighs if you need. Use what you need to in your own body to create sensation so that when you get into something where you don't feel the intensity, you can still be aware. If you want to get physiological about it, the more stretching and space you make, the more openness you get, the better circulation, the more your nerves come alive. Mr. Iyengar would say, you create clarity in the nerve so you can feel what is true and going on. Take your left elbow onto your knee. Oh, don't come out. Get some clarity. Tough it out. Put that left forearm on the thigh. Drag the left elbow back so you feel that thigh muscle drag across the thigh, moving it, waking that flesh up. Swing your right arm forward and then overhead. Very nice. Oh, I love it when a whole class swings their arm right. That's very good. Take a nice deep breath. Hold the pose. Create the extension. Move your limbs their directions. Wake up somewhere else, not by forcing stretch, but move it so you can feel anything. Take a breath or two, and then for the next 2 breaths, look up towards your armpit, and then make something in the pose that I got you here. Now, what do you want with it? What are you going to do with it? Receive from it, but also create with it. The world's just not giving to you, nor do you owe the world everything else. The world and you are 2 great powers mixing together. Exhale, bring the body up. Turn the left toes in, turn the right toes out. Arms wide. Stretch through the limbs. Bend the right knee. When this is all over, you all are going to be some very strong leg yogis when I'm done with you. Or at least confident. Take the right forearm to the right thigh. Sweep the left arm up and over, or forward and over. Work the pose. Breathe. Side angle. All right, hold your legs. Rotate your left hip forward towards your right knee. So you're twisting towards warrior one, but your chest is low. Your right forearm stays on the right thigh. Twist your left hip around until it's almost like your belly would come to your thigh. Stretch both arms straight out. Pick your chest straight up. Nice, good. Keep that knee bent. No one said straighten your right knee. Warrior one. This is all about, can you, again, just like last week, can you feel your legs? Can you stay in it? And you learn to move your spine in stimulation so that when you are not as stimulated, because it's a more passive cooling pose, you are aware. Don't get out of it. Make something else. You committed to this hour until your internet gives out, right? Air quotes. So make what you need out of this. Take a breath. Bring your body all the way up, straighten your right leg, turn your toes in, turn your left toes out. Stretch your arms wide. Last one. Last little series of 3. Push through the limbs, extend, bend the left knee. And viewer, when you look out over the left arm, what's stimulating and active in your body? Can you stimulate something more? And I'm very clear on my word. I am not using the word engage or flex. Do not always need to be strong and hard. Stimulation can be different than just force. So try moving your muscles, flexing them, try moving other stuff to support them. That's how teachers discover the really weird little golden tricks that wow the class. Take your left forearm to the leg. Pull the left elbow back, sliding it along the quad to make it feel. Stimulate, stretch the right arm forward and over. Nice. Breathe. Look up towards the armpit. Take a few breaths. Make something out of this, what you need. So if you need to feel confident, take a moment, recognize you've been in this class 26 minutes, you're still going. Find that thing you need in this, whether you believe it or not. Need to be happy you're here, because I'm happy you're here. You're strong. Look at how much it takes to do this. Your whole body weight. All right, keep the left knee bent. Roll your right hip forward towards the left side of the body, rolling your chest low. When your thigh has rotated as much as it can, you feel your back widen a little bit, your glutes widen. Stretch both arms out, pick both sides of your body straight up. Warrior one, bent knee, Micah. Keep it bent. Nicely done, everybody. Remember, it's not about strength. Stimulate. Wake yourself up. Get something out of this. If you've ever done the scientific method anything, first thing they do is they heat the thing up they're trying to learn about. That's what you're doing to yourself. Take a nice few deep breaths. Untwist. Back to center, arms down. Turn your left leg straight, left toes in. Take both hands onto the floor in front of you, standing straddle stretch, Pasada Padottanasana. Arms nice and long. Legs nice and straight. Even though the leg may not be perfectly straight, extend through the leg, stimulate the hamstring to lift. You might feel it stretch. Flex the thighs, stimulate the calf even. Lift the hips. Go through the front body and then start to breathe so you feel the rib cage move. So you feel the back move. If you want more, walk your hands back in line with your heels. Straighten your arms so you extend through the upper body. So you feel the back body widen. And when you breathe, breathe in so you feel the muscles across your back lengthen. Palms flat to the floor, Caitlin. Fingers pointing the same direction as your toes, dear. Lovely. Thank you. Breathe. Take a nice deep breath. Place your hands on your hips. Bring your body up. Good. Have a seat on a bolster or a blanket or block or something to add some height to your body. Stretch both legs straight out in front of you. So both legs straight out in front of you, Dandasana. Fingertips onto the bolster next to you, or the block or the floor, and just lift your spine up to start for a moment. And even though we want to lift the spine up, we can't pick up our body just on our arms. So press your legs down, press your heels down, press your hips down, and try to lift from the front and back side of your pelvis. So you're engaging not just the arm to push you up. The arm is just there to help. But can you work your legs a little bit to be as your arms? Can you push your hips down towards the floor? Not curling, right? But push the bottom of the buttock down a little bit so you get some more active lift. So now that you're in a seated poses are cooling in yoga. They're hard because they ask you to move your body in some very deep bends, often manipulated by our own arms or its own strength. And if we don't do them warm or we don't do them with clarity of how to engage our body and be active in it, we hurt ourselves. Well, like as we've built towards full lotus and all these other seated poses, That is the most important thing, is the awareness as you're going through it, how you do so safely. So take a few deep breaths. Stretch both arms straight up. Did you keep the lift? Do you still press your hips down so you can lift from your abdominals? And remember, just as the limbs have their own directions to go, legs away from your hip, arms away from your back, your spine has to extend its two directions. So even though we want to lift up against gravity, you have to push the lower part down. And then fold forward and reach for your toes, your foot, your calf, your thigh, whatever you can grab a hold of. You can grab your toes, grab your toes. Big fan of grabbing those big toes. You might go, oh no, my big toes, it'll hurt them. Unless you have a big toe injury, it probably won't. But as my teachers would say, get a hold of your big toes to get a hold of your life. I have no clue what that meant. My life is still, I grab my big toes a lot. I don't know what's going on. Push your feet against your hands, especially the big toe. Pull your heart up. Remember, extend your limbs the direction they're working, and extend your spine its two directions. So think of the plane of your spine. Stretch the low back down, lift your heart and chest up. Stretch your upper spine higher. So you're stretching from the back side, using the front side to lift. Forward folds, seated, very stretchy, very strong. Now, like I said, stimulate the body in some way. Flex the legs, try to get all part of the legs active, even though they may not be deeply flexed, but you are aware and you feel them. Here's the thing that will make you safest in your yoga practice. If you're totally aware of what's going on in your body, you may not intellectually be able to speak to every single muscle or every single rotation or, well, that, or know every Sanskrit name of the pose. But honestly, who cares? There's no test at the end of this. Not that I know of, I don't know. I'm not at the end of this, but take a deep breath, bring your body up. Cross your right ankle over your left thigh. When you cross your ankle over your thigh, instead of flexing the foot, point the foot deeply and then pull the outer edge of your right foot towards your left hip, right at that crease where the thigh pelvis flex and bend at. Point the foot deeply. Take your, if you are tight in the shoulder, you will probably need a strap. If you are tight in your shoulders, you're going to put a strap around the right foot near the toes, not on the toes, but the metatarsal. Stretch your right arm back, turn your palm back, push the hand back as hard as you can. Bring the arm down, pushing it back as hard as you can. And then just when your arm cannot move any more back and across straight, then you bend the elbow and reach around. If you can grab your big toe, grab your big toe. If you need to grab the strap, grab the strap. Grab something. Get a hold of your big toe to get a hold of your life. Sounds good. We'll print it on a big t-shirt or something for later. Coffee mug that no one's going to want because we all have too many. And then exhale, stretch your left arm forward, grab a hold of your left thigh, shin, calf, foot, whatever. Grab something. Huh? Yeah, I deserve that. Get your damn coffee. Remember, when you stretch forward, your right arm behind you, your right side wants to pull back. Rotate your right ribs forward and lift, extending the spine, two different directions. The hips pull down, the spine extends up, left thigh pushes out against the hand. The right shoulder keeps stretching for the right foot. And then rotate your core body around. You may not be perfectly straight, but you're still moving it. Because if you let your shoulder pull you back, that's just going to twist your neck. So while your arm's behind you, you have to twist your upper body forward and not to use your neck. Look towards your foot. And breathe. Be aware of your left knee wants to roll out. Keep it centered. So stimulate rotation inward if you need to. Take a few breaths in. Exhale, up you come. Switch sides. Bend your left
I
knee,
had a
pull your
question.
left foot up onto your right thigh.
So I had a question. So when you're turning towards the front, is the
Huh?
shoulder coming in the whole?
No, the shoulder is going to stay back in the twist, but you're drawing your rib cage and your core around. You don't want to twist your shoulder, right? Because that's just you pulling your neck. Twist from your core body, like I said. Your shoulder will get a stretch to it because it's reaching around behind you. But if you let your whole body twist and you go forward, you're just going to put pressure on that right neck and down your right back. You will twist if you're tight, and then you have to try and level your body out in the forward fold. Does that make sense? Great. Left ankle on right thigh. Point the left foot. If you use the strap on the other side, use it on this side. Stretch your left arm back, across, down, and then bend. Climb your right hand down the strap or grab a hold of your big toe, and then reach out with your right arm and extend forward. And again, no matter your depth of your twist or what you're holding on to, extend your leg into your arm. Lift your chest, lift your spine up, push your hips down. And even though your left leg is very passive here, there's a certain stimulation and activeness that is true to protect the knee. Push your left foot, and I didn't say this on the other side, so my bad. Oh no, you'll just have to practice on your own to, find if it's true. Do not push your left knee down. Push the left foot harder into your thigh. That will make your leg work. Andres. She says yes. Now, even though your left shoulder is pulled back, that is correct. Are your left ribs and right ribs even? I say no. You move from your core to move them. Is your left and right armpit even? I say no. Move your left armpit. There you go, Pratima. Yeah. Lift your right ribs up so your left ribs can come forward. Your right ribs going faster than your left will not help. A few more seconds. Come on up. Stretch your left leg straight. Bend your right knee on its own strength and place your right foot to the outside of your left thigh, trying to take your foot flat to the floor. So again, just as we've been working these variations of not Matsyendrasana, Vrajasana, twist. Whoa. Instead of wrapping your arm around the leg and moving your spine, move your hip more by pulling your knee. Grab a hold of it with both hands or your forearm, and don't let your spine do the work. Keep your spine up and just pull your knee into it hard. Really move that knee towards the left side. So you feel that deep in your hip. You might even feel it deep in the crease of the where the abdomen, pelvis, and thigh connect. All those muscles have to stretch and fold. And I used to have some deep pinching in there and some pressure on my abdomen. And then one day it stopped because the muscle released. So push your right foot into the floor a little bit to help. Use your arms to pull it across. And the more you push your right foot into the floor, especially your big toe and your pinky toe, you're going to get more deep in that inner thigh hip crease, which is the muscles that have to release to protect your inner knee when you do very deep knee bends and hip bends. You would think that a lot of the knee muscle protection or work comes from the outer hip because those are large muscles that run down to the leg. In reality, there's a few smaller muscles that run from the inner groin down to the inner knee that are much more directly connected and more connected to the connective tissue that will tear, meniscus tears, ACL tears, things like that, that cause big issues. Remember, this is about stimulation so you can move safely. So when you push that foot into the floor and then pull with your arms, you kind of start to feel that folding, that whole inner place right in the crease has to drop and move. It may not for you, but it does for me. That is what physically happens. Tristan agrees, she does not like. Stretch your right leg straight. On its own strength, try to pick up, bend the left knee and push the foot to the other side. Take it as far as you can and then use your arms. Get your left foot flat to the floor. Use the hands on the knee. Don't twist, but pull. Pull it in, then push your foot harder into the floor and then pull more. And then you breathe, as told, and see how much you can keep active stimulation in it so your left foot just does not hang out like Mr. Iyengar would say, like a dead fish. Push through the big toe, pinky toe, then move that knee so you get that active through the whole leg. You can feel it. All right. So Tristan shared that this side is harder for her to feel. If she was asking for advice, she didn't, but I'm going to give it anyway because that's what you're all here for. This is the side that I think you would need to practice in this longer until that part wakes up. And for her, she said, it's my furthest difference. I think that it's safe to go forward in poses or deeper poses when you can feel stuff work. If it's numb, that shows lack of life and circulation. How many times have any of us made a mistake and then we realized because we didn't know something bad happened from it? Hurt happens. That's how I got injured. Stretch your leg out. Bend your left knee under its own strength. Move the left foot under the right thigh. So with the left foot under right thigh, point your left foot. Push your left foot into the floor. Your left knee may not be on the floor, and that's okay. I'm not worried about pushing this joint down. Push what is already on the ground actively into the ground, and that includes your hips. So if you push your left foot down and you feel your right and left hip in the bolster, push it down more. Then bend your right leg on its own strength. Move the knee out to the side, and then try to put the foot up on your left thigh near your knee. Wait for it. And then just sit here, actively pushing through the surface contacts that the parts of your body and flesh that feel onto the earth already feel. Push your right foot harder into the left thigh, not your knee down. The knee may go down, but just be aware that you're not putting force into this action. This will come down one day, but push your foot down as you point it, and you'll work all the stuff that's in it. Push your left foot, your left, whatever is touching the floor down, push your hips down. And you might feel like it's easier to sit upright because your legs are active. That's true. This will open your hips. This will release the groin and the muscles that go from your groin to your knees. We've been doing this for weeks because I don't know if you're practicing at home without me. I know Chai is because Chai goes to 15 yoga classes a day. Very dedicated. But, you know, weeks of practice. All right. Pull your right foot closer to your left hip. If you use your hand, push your foot against your hand the whole time so that as you move that in, you create a smoothness and a strength. So you're teaching the muscles in the knee and in the leg to bend and flex that deeply on their own one day. The hand is a prop. That means you work with it to help learn from it. So you go a little deeper. So now keep your feet pointed. Use your left hand. Reach under your foot, whatever it is, whether down near your knee, mid-thigh, or near your hip, and grab the big toe joint, the metatarsal, the big bone here. Grab under and twist it so you're rotating the sole of the foot up to the ceiling. And then push the foot down into the thigh. Push your left foot down into the floor. Push both hips down into the floor. Not to grip, but just to activate whatever's going on. Now your body's beginning to cool. That means you have to be aware. You have limited time after you've done standing poses to really get in the deeper hip seated poses. As your muscles cool down, it becomes more likely that you will get tighter or could hurt yourself. That's why I'm asking you specifically, move the leg on its own strength. This will keep some of the warmth. This will keep some of the fluidity of the muscle. I know it's easy just to bend your knee a little and pull it in place with your arm. I think it is better, especially for if you've had an injury or you feel that you're a novice, and right, Mr. Anger would say we're all novices for the first 20 years. Always ask your body to do as much of it as it can, unless there's an injury, on its own strength to teach it that good habitual movement. Don't just try to jerk yourself around and tie yourself in a knot. If I had said that to Dustin like 14, 15 years ago, young Dustin would have thought I was an idiot. But stretch your leg out. Stretch your right leg first on its own strength. Stretch your left leg out. Activate, push through the legs, get pushed through the hips, and then bend your right knee on its own strength. Put the right foot under the left thigh. Pick up your left foot, put it near the right knee. Now, even though you might be flexible enough to go to all the way up into Ardha Padmasana or half lotus where the foot's near the hip, be patient. Put it on your knee. I'm trying to teach something here. Pratima. Thank you, dear. I love the eager student. The eager student's ready to go further or show what they've done, and I honor all students' practice. But also, you paid to be here. You might as well play along. It's like going to a concert and start singing the song 2 minutes ahead of the musician. That's a good analogy. Push your right foot into the floor. Push whatever's touching the floor more into the floor. Don't push what is floating into the floor. Don't push your knee down. Don't push your spine down. Push your hips down. Push your left foot into the thigh towards the earth. Push your right foot down more. Both feet actively pointed. And work on lift and become aware of how easy it is to tilt forward in your spine, and especially those of us that have practiced a little bit. If you notice when you get your legs close to this position, you tilt forward a little, this is where you will hurt your knee. The more pressure we lean into our front groin, the more likely it is to ultimately make this tougher. Drop your weight into the back side of your hips and lift. If you look at pictures of Mr. Angar in Light on Yoga when he's doing his Padmasana, his forward folds are very deep from his mid and upper back. He's very active in his legs, his hips pressing down to make sure he does not put pressure on the inner groin and inner knee. Very, very interesting. Subtle stuff. If you want more, try on your strength of your left leg, pull it closer, as close as you can, but then once you get it there, grab it with your hand, put your foot into the hand to teach that mobility, even if you have to kind of pump it a little by pushing the foot into the hand and then using it to teach that motion. Draw it closer to the hip. And notice the minute, if you pull it up a little bit, your spine wants to do this. You want to tilt and lean forward. Try not to. Keep your weight in your hips. Keep the root of the pose. Remember, some of you have been my students long enough. And by long enough, I mean 2 weeks, because I say the same shit all the time. The asana of your pose is not the posture itself. The asana is the deepest root of the pose, right? I talk about stimulation. You got to get into the deepest root of the pose to feel the stimulation, active effects of it. Go to the old translations. Asana doesn't mean posture. Deepest root of your posture. It's just been muddied through time. So deepest roots. Roots are in the ground. So work the parts that are already touching the floor to the floor so that anything you do around that, you will feel. Take your right arm, grab the foot, wherever it is, twist the sole of the foot up from the big toe joint. And then push the foot down into the hand and into the thigh. A few more seconds. Don't worry, we're going to do this again on each side. So if you're excited, Good. All right, stretch your legs out on their own strength. Push through the hips, push through the thighs, try to bring your spine up. And then under the strength of its own, bend the left knee, slide the left foot under the right thigh. Did we? No, put your left foot under your right thigh. Put your left foot under your right thigh. Thank you. Bend your right knee on its own strength. Pick the right foot up and try to get it on the knee. And then, before you pull the knee in deep, and there's a reason I'm pausing, always to put it on the knee for that second, to get your base set, push your left foot into the floor, push your hips into the floor, and then try to pull your right foot closer to the hip. Be actively pushing the foot as you do so. Keep pushing that left or that right foot down into the left thigh, pointing the foot. And now, keep pushing your hips down, foot down. Slide your left foot out away from your hip so your left foot's under your right knee. So you reverse the position of the legs. You're a little closer now towards lotus. And pause here for a second. We'll go a little farther, but just work this. Push your feet down into the earth. Lift your spine up. You may feel like we're just sitting here. I'm just pushing my legs down. The muscles that are moving are some of the least nerve-dense muscles in our body. A lot of the stuff on the inner thigh, down into the knee joint, and in that inner pelvis, you're only going to feel when it's like super knotted, right? There's a reason that if your back is out, it's probably your psoas, right? You go to the doctor and it's like, oh, your hips are out of whack, but you're like, why is my pain in my back? Your back has more nerve ending than down in your psoas, than down in your pelvis muscle. So it takes time and learning to work the manipulation of the limbs of the legs, especially in these seated poses, to open the pelvis up safely. That's why I say don't look for flexion or force, stimulate. Stimulate the limbs in different ways and feel the effect on your hips, feel the effect on your spine. Awareness does not mean just infinitely knowing. Being able to put one thing, it's putting multiple small pieces together to see the big picture. All right, slide your left foot out from under the knee just a little bit farther in front of you. Point each foot, push each foot into the surface. If your right knee is on the floor, you may go to the next thing. If your right knee is not on the floor, you do not go to this next part, period. If your right knee is way up in the air, work on pushing your surfaces that are your body that's already touching the floor more into the floor. Take your hand down, and if you want to grab a hold of your left foot, you may pull your left foot up onto your right thigh, just onto the knee to start, but only if your knee is touching the floor. And then push your flesh into the earth, not the floating stuff, the stuff that is already touching something. So Pratima, take your right foot, pull it more up onto your left thigh, dear. Right foot, there you go. Yeah, get into that crease. Then you can take your other foot around. But you do not take your bottom foot up onto your leg unless that right knee is already on the floor. Very good, Shubha. Now point your toes, dear. Nice. And now grab a hold of your feet and twist them. Roll those soles up. If one foot's on the floor, leave it there and leave it alone. It will do its work. Whatever foot is on the thigh, that foot gets twisted. Very nice. Good, Pratima. I'm really glad that you didn't take that other foot up. That knee needs some time to open. Be patient with yourself. Love yourself. Good, Sanjeev. Nice. Woo, look at that, Lena. Yeah. For a guy that only shows up to half the yoga classes, look at those hips. You a dancer in your past life, buddy? Or in this life? Very good, Caitlin. Nice being patient. Now push your hips harder into the bolster, not to tilt yourself forward, but push your backside of your pelvis down to lift. That widens the pose. All right, take your left foot out of everything first, stretch it out on its own strength, and then stretch your right leg out on its. Well done. This is how you start getting there safely. Bend your right knee, bend your right knee and slide your right foot under its own strength under the left thigh. Bend your left knee, pick the foot up, try to pull it up into the hip. Oh, stop on the knee for a second, thank you. Left foot on right knee. Point, push your hips down. In my experience, in any of these seated poses, the state you look to get to is not one of a deep stretch or distance, like how far you think you go in the form of the pose. But at each stage of this is where I think I've spent a lot of time in my practice developing a certain mastery. I hate to use that word at all. Is breaking down stages that, if you've ever read any of Mr. Iyengar's or any of the other great teachers' works, they talk about that each stage of the pose should feel like you can sit in them and be in them and be comfortable, or reach Savasana in them. And I've always said Savasana is not blacking yourself out. You don't hit Savasana and hopefully you don't go unconscious. It's a state of awareness, but non-tension. Right? Bliss. As you go through these stages, if you can find that in each of these poses where you push yourself in that stability, where your stimulation is not agitation, but you can just hold in it, and there's a softness to your face, there's a softness to everything you're going through, but it's active. That's a good stage. That means you're ready to go to the next step. But if you're like foot's on your knee here and you're about ready to kill me through the internet, maybe you should like stay here for a while. Pushing yourself past this isn't going to give you the next thing. We do live in a culture that encourages us to get over it, get past it, right? Not taught how to be in it. Yoga asks us to be in this. And I ask that you make something out of your pose that you want to be in. All right, bring that left foot a little higher. If that's your deal. And then slide your right foot out so it's under the left knee. Point the feet. It's also the danger of seated poses. Your teacher and I mean, my teachers were too, really get bored when we want to talk a lot. Unfortunately, you're on the internet and I got you all muted, and stay that way. I don't have to answer questions back yet. Less of a discussion, more a diatribe. Diatribe thing. Push your feet down, reroot yourself every time, because pushing down through those feet, even though it's an activeness, pushing down through the hips, even though it's active, you find that soft calm point in it, you can just sit in it. You get comfortable hearing your body. You get comfortable in what's already been given to you, what's already been going on in your life, what you've taken in, all the happy, sad, anger, anguish, hard, beauty, all of it. And then you can feel a little in control to add to it. What do you need in this moment? And can you create it in the pose? Gabriel would call that becoming your own inner genie. I don't have a fancy name for it. Or if I did, I forgot. Slide your right foot out past your left knee. Point the foot on each leg and push both down. Don't pull it up yet. Again, this is the stage where you stop. If your left knee is not touching the floor, you do not go past this point safely. This is where you are. And you can stop at any of those other stages that we've done up to this point. If there's where you're getting like irritated, you feel the hurt, you feel pain, you feel stuff that's not what you want, and you can't create it, you go back and you work on those. But if your knee is not on the floor, you do not go past this. I can't stop you, but if I find out you do and you hurt yourself, I will shame. I will guilt trip. I won't guilt trip you, I promise. I appreciate experimentation, but just don't hurt yourself. Push the feet down, push your hips down, and if you are ready, if your left knee relaxes and stays on the floor, you can pull the right foot up and put it on the knee itself and push. Tristan's not going to because her knee is not quite there yet. Yeah, because you're working your hips. If you're just patient, her knee was even higher than where it is now. It was about 2 inches off the floor. And as she's just pushed her hips down and pushed her feet down, the hip is opening. This is a patience thing. Give it time there. Let this be the new normal. And then if you want to pull it all the way up into the full thing, go for it. And if you have a foot on a thigh, grab the foot and twist that sole of that foot up. Really encourage the knee. Very nice, Shuba. Let's see where everyone is. Micah, grab that right foot or that left foot, buddy, and twist it with your hand. Get the sole of the foot up to the ceiling. Caitlin, grab those feet. Rotate them, girl. If a foot is on the thigh, so Tristan should be grabbing her left foot with her right hand and turning the toes up. And then pushing the foot down. Be active in all parts of yourself. Be stimulating all parts of yourself. You deserve it. Take a few breaths. All right. Take the right leg out of the pose first, stretching it straight, and then the left leg. Very nice. Lay on your backs. Savasana, please. Take a nice deep breath in. Slow breath out. Make yourself comfortable. Make it efficient. Make it quick. Make it clear what your intent is in the first couple breaths. As you lay down, taking that moment to shift the body, to get yourself really comfy, because even if you spend 2 minutes getting super comfortable for that one perfect minute, it's worth it. I would rather have one perfectly wonderful minute getting everything I need so I can giving myself what I need so I can get what I want than I would spend 5 minutes wishing I had. So give yourself the next 10 seconds to adjust. Shift, move, sigh, burp, or whatever. Get really comfortable. So the next however much time, it's really yours. You make it yours. You're not holding shape, you're not holding form, you're not trying to impress or do whatever anyone else thinks you need to. This is your time. And rest, my friends, until I ring the bell, and enjoy the fruits of your yoga practice. Take a nice deep breath in. Bend your knees, roll your body to the right. Press your palms into the floor, and as you exhale, slowly up you come. Until we meet again, namaste.